we were hoping you might be able to help us.
Anything I could do.
I believe you checked the razor just minutes before the curtain went up.
That's right. And the tape wasn't snagged or torn, as Harold has been suggesting. It was in place.
No one is blaming you. But it remains a fact that sometime during the play, someone removed the razor and took the tape off.
You're listening to Midsomer Murders Mayhem, the official podcast for the hit global television series Midsomer Murders. I'm your host, Nicki Chapman. In this podcast, I get to examine the Midsomer Murders television series in audio form, one nail-biting episode at a time. Before we get started, there will be a few spoilers, so if you haven't seen the episode in question today, I suggest you do it right now. We're talking about episode 3, back in series 1, Death of a Hollow Man, set against the backdrop of Causton Amateur Dramatic Society's production of Amadeus. A body is found in the nearby lake, and then a murder takes place on the stage. Are the two connected? And who is to blame? With the help of cast, crew and devoted superfans, I'll be covering some of the most important scenes, discussing the most intriguing characters and seeing who can spot those cameos. Helping me on this episode will be Bill Young.
Well, you have so many subplots. You have the bookshop owners and their relationships, and Kitty is a subplot on her own. But that's what I think brings Midsomer Murders to the forefront as being just a great show, is that there are so many subplots which lead you to think potentially everybody could do this.
Later, we'll hear from Caroline Graham, the author of the Chief Inspector Barnaby series, of which the show is based on.
People are always asking respectable elderly ladies who write crime how on earth they ever come to sort of imagine these things. I don't know what they think our unconscious is like. It's a great mess like everybody else's.
Plus, we'll finish things off with a round of our superfan face-off quiz, hosted by award-winning Scottish comedian, actor, presenter and, most importantly, die-hard Midsomer Murders enthusiast. Yes, it's Ashley Storrie.
Death of a Hollow Man is based on the book of the same name by Caroline Graham. Of the 7 Chief Inspector Barnaby series books, which number in the 7 books is Death of a Hollow Man?
I'm a librarian.
Oh, Jill! Jill!
I hang my head in shame.
Jill, you're as much a librarian as Cully in our book van.
Also, be sure to stick around for the end where we tie up any of those loose ends, wrap everything up, announce exactly who committed the murderous crimes and how Barnaby solved them. Bill, good to speak to you.
It's great to connect on each side of the Atlantic.
Death of a Hollow Man. It kicks off with the murder of Agnes Gray, who we hear very, very early on. She's a wealthy contributor to animal charities.
Well, it really does amplify how do you survive life in a small English village, because you're just slapped in the face immediately within 30 seconds of a dead body.
Well, we cut to a scene on the stage, Amateur Dramatics. Now, I love this episode for many reasons. Probably number one is I was brought up with Amateur Dramatics. So they've got a production of Amadeus going on.
Well, the leading man is Estlin Carmichael. To say he's got grand illusions as far as his ability as an actor is an understatement.
Opening night, leading man's on the stage, and then, how can we say this? It all goes slightly wrong.
Vi saluto.
Well, the leading man slits his own throat, and it's supposed to be a dummy razor, and then it's not, and then you try to figure out, okay, who switched the razor, and you realize every individual had a reason to do it.
Yeah.
Which makes it a great Midsomer Murder.
So you've got everybody there, the pressure's on. The leading man slits his own throat with a razor. We've got that visual of him hitting the stage. And of course, Barnaby's actually sitting in the audience watching his wife. This is the moment where Barnaby gets up from his seat, stands on the stage and addresses the audience.
Ladies and gentlemen, could I have your attention, please? There's been an accident. Would you all please stay in your seats for the next few minutes? Thank you.
Let's just go through some of the main characters, or should I say suspects. We have Harold Winstanley, played by Bernard Hepton, who pulls funds into an Amdram production to further his West End ambitions. We have Eslyn Carmichael, played by Nicholas Le Provost, a wealthy accountant who abandons his first wife, Rosa, in favour of the rather flirty Kitty, played by Deborah Stevenson, who, guess what, is now expecting. Although, with him dead, both his first wife and his new lover could be the culprits. Rosa uncovers Kitty is having an affair with Tim, who's actually in a gay relationship with Avery Phillips, his business partner in the local bookshop. And then we have drama student Nicholas Bentley, Ed Waters, cast as Mozart, who takes an interest in Barnaby's daughter, Cully. The entire ensemble, whether on stage or behind the scenes, become embroiled in personal passions and hostilities. We like to look at some of the amazing cameos, as there's normally one or two.
Every episode of Midsomer Murders, you think, where have I seen this person before? The director, Harold Winstanley, otherwise known as the actor Bernard Hepton, was actually in the original Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy as Toby Esterhaus.
Really?
And then, all of these people are just, and then all of a sudden somebody comes in and it's like, oh my gosh, you're in Waiting for God.
Yeah.
What am I doing here? Casting pearls before uncultured swine. I, who directed a #1 tour of Spider's Web with the original West End cast, so renowned that one critic said he'd never seen anything like it in the whole of his theatrical life.
So that's the fun mystery within a mystery of where have I seen this person before?
Yes. And we also have Deborah Stevenson, who plays Kitty. Now, she's well known in the UK for her role as Shell Dockley in the female prison drama Bad Girls and the long-running soap Coronation Street, where she played Frankie Baldwin between 2004 and 2006.
Want to know how we described your sex life? I said it was like humping a tranquilised cart horse.
And we have Janine Davitsky, Deirdre Tibbs. She was in the comedy series One Foot in the Grave, the hilarious film Abigail's Party, which was an adaptation of the play by Mike Leigh, and more recently Benidorm, which, well, if you haven't seen it, I would highly, highly recommend.
I went to the loo once. It was at the end of the interval. It took all of 2 minutes. When I got back, Harold was yelling at me about the buzzer being late.
And also Nicholas Woodson, Avery Phillips, who was in the James Bond film Skyfall, Paddington 2, The Death of Stalin, and many, many more.
Oh, I designed the set for that. My partner did the lighting. He has a way with a lamp you wouldn't believe.
We've also got to mention, because I do love a little bit of romance, because it isn't all about deaths. We've got Barnaby's daughter, Cully. She starts a romance with the other leading man, Nicholas. Here's the pair of them chatting about drama school.
So, when did you get this audition at Central?
Oh, the other week. But don't tell anyone. It's secret. I should get the results any day now.
I've had a few theatre jobs since I came down from Cambridge.
You're kidding?
Third Witching Macbeth and a Polish tour of Much Ado.
Brilliant. How did it go?
I got mumps. Our tents were washed away in a thunderstorm and Claudia was had up for solicitor.
There's a big question mark as to whether they're going to keep seeing each other or not, but I quite like that. And that sort of runs concurrently, so it sort of lifts the scene, so to speak.
Well, you have so many subplots. You have the bookshop owners and their relationships, and Kitty is, a subplot on her own. But that's what I think brings Midsomer Murders to the forefront as being just a great show, is that there are so many subplots which lead you to think potentially everybody could do this.
Indeed. Now let's hear a few of the characters from the show and their vengeance towards the now dead leading man.
20 years we were married, and he'd never give me a child. It was never the right time, you see. We were too young. We didn't have enough money. The business wasn't established. business was thriving. He'd give me all that moralistic claptrap about it being no sort of world to bring a child into. Then to get Kitty pregnant. Sometimes I don't know which of them I hate the most.
I think Estlin should be playing Leopold Mozart. He's described as a jealous, dried-up old turd.
And of course, you think about theater, and you think, well, it was obviously either the leading man or the director that did it. But I want to go back to the Amdram. It's something that's unfamiliar to me.
Is that right? Well, Amdram, Amateur Dramatics. And I think if you go to most sort of slightly larger villages, the towns around the whole of the UK, you'll find this infrastructure, whereas local people are really, really passionate about putting on a show. It might be Il Trovatore, or it might be The Sound of Music. It could be pantomime. Oh, no, it's not. Oh, yes, it is. And often when people talk about Amdram, they've got sort of their tongue in their cheek. But it's amazing the level of expertise and quality that comes out of these local shows, because it'll be the local milkman, the lady that runs the post office. It could be young people that want to get into theatre, and that's how they're starting out. So there's people of all different ages and abilities, and we certainly see this with Death of a Hollow Man on the stage. Not everybody's a great actor, but everybody comes together. So you've got Barnaby painting the scenery at the back. That's what my dad used to do. You know, you've got the call boy or the call girl or the call person, as we now call them, who are there with the script. So if you forget your lines, they shout them out to you on stage. And it's people's lives. And you might think, Bill, well, why is Nicki going on about it so much? Because that was my life when I was growing up. My parents, my sister and I, we were all involved in it and we loved it. But I'm just going to say there was never a murder on our stage.
Well, thankfully. But I think the great thing is that, to take this full circle, that's what makes British television so good for me, is that you have this base that, whether it's, the amateur dramatic societies, it's the regional theaters that flourish, that people can really work on their craft, and you never know. Yeah. And I think from an actor and actor standpoint, you're constantly working on your craft, and you have that ability to do this. And that just doesn't exist over here, I don't think.
Oh, well, we like to enlighten you, and glad you appreciate our thespians, Bill. So let's talk a little bit about the exchanges between Barnaby and Troy, like this one.
Unbelievable. What was it?
£860,000 over 7 years.
Maybe she won the lottery.
Not in 1991, she didn't.
And then, to give it all to animals.
Everyone needs something to love, Troy, and at least animals love you back.
Not the same, though, is it? I wouldn't fancy cuddling up at night to a cocker spaniel.
Oh, don't you knock it before you try it.
I think it's very, very clever, that dialogue, because when I'm listening to those two actors together, I'm forgetting they're acting. I'm with them walking down the street. It's brilliant.
You see the relationship between Barnaby and Troy. What I love about it is that there's a true respect between the two, and Troy obviously understands that he's got to learn from Barnaby, but Barnaby is very interested in bringing him along.
What an utterly useless waste of a day.
I don't know, sir. We've cleared quite a few people out of the way.
We cleared so many people out of the way, Troy, we've got no suspects left.
But I think there's a true respect between Troy and Barnaby.
It's also, I think, the father-son relationship. Don't knock it till you try it, because we know Troy is looking for love. He gets really embarrassed when he's talking about anything too personal. And I love the fact that Barnaby, he takes the mickey out of him. And that's a very British saying, isn't it? Takes the mickey as in takes the Michael. But he takes the mickey out of him without being rude or offensive. And Troy likes it. Sometimes he doesn't get the gag. His face is a picture. That split second later, But I just think the dynamic between that father-son healthy relationship, it's so, so good. I think some of the funniest lines with this episode come from the dialogue in the bookshop. Just have a listen to this.
I'm looking for a book. Books are what we do best.
For my mother.
Something light? I've got a lovely new trollop.
Pardon?
I love that. Trollop, pardon? I had to rewind that because I think that's so clever. Now, Joanna Trollope is a very famous writer over here. She's written numerous best-selling books, and probably his mum would read a Joanna Trollope is the truth. But do you know what a trollop is, Bill?
Well, I know what a trollop is, again, on this side of the Atlantic.
Go on, are you allowed to say? Go on. What is it?
A trollop here would be a individual of questionable values, I guess, to be kind. Not knowing who's listening to this and the age that who's listening. Just somewhat of questionable values, I guess we'll leave it at that.
Do you know what? I'm going to say exactly the same. It's a lady of a certain standing, shall we say. Not a nice word, not the worst word, but a trollop. You know, years ago, people say she's a right old trollop. We've got to be careful how we say things nowadays. But just that moment where Troy says, sorry, trollop, you know, I just thought it was wonderful. And as ever with these actors, it's the timing with that script. Okay, now, Bill, being an American who knows probably more than I do about British television, I have picked this clip, especially for you.
Oh, for God's sake, Troy.
He was backstage.
Yeah, that's all it took, so was I.
Yeah, but you're not one sandwich short of a picnic, sir.
One sandwich short of a picnic. Now, please tell me you know what that means.
Well, you know, you can pick it up immediately when you see the exchange between the two, but when you think of the correlating phrase over here, you would say somebody's not playing with a full deck. Or, you know, definitely not the brightest bulb in the pack. What makes me want to completely move over there is so that I can say one sandwich short of a picnic.
And I'll take off the crusts. How about that? I've worked on a show called Escape to the Country, and it goes out in so many different countries around the world. I think it's about 120, but Midsomer Murders beats all of that. The series, now listen to this, it's been exported around the world, including, are you ready? You're sitting up? Italy, Denmark, Australia, the States, the Czech Republic, even Mongolia, albeit they often have different names, with the most popular around the world being Inspector Barnaby, which I can understand in a way, although in Norway, and I'm taking a deep breath here, and I'm just going to put it out. I'm sorry if I offend anyone. Are you ready, Bill? It's called Mord og Mysterier, Murder and Mysteries. Now, if you are from Norway, you're going to go, Nicki, it doesn't sound anything like that, but I gave it my best. I didn't even get O-level French, by the way. And in Croatia, Ubojuska u Midsomeru, which is appalling, and it literally translates as Midsomer Murders. Yeah. As you can tell, I will never be employed as a translator. So apologies to anyone out there that I might have offended, but we love you, love the show.
They always said that if you just say it with conviction, then everybody listening will
I think you're too kind.
Pronouncing this wrong all these years.
I mean, that is such an impressive list, and I've just read out a few of them. I mean, why do you think it has such universal, global appeal?
You get to see just gorgeous English countryside. You have, you know, let's go down to the pub. That doesn't exist here. And you get to experience small English villages and a life that we would all like to be a part of.
Now, this is the part of the episode where we hear from a member of cast or someone from behind the scenes. The mastermind behind Midsomer Murders was writer Caroline Graham, who was born in Warwickshire to a working-class family. At the age of 14, she left school and went to work at Coultall's Mill and later served in the Women's Royal Naval Service. Her first novel, Fire Dance, was published in 1982. And in 1991, at the age of 60, she received a master's degree in theatre studies from the University of Birmingham in the UK. But most fascinating of all is that Caroline Graham is best known as the writer of the Chief Inspector Barnaby series, dramatised for television as, are you ready? Midsomer Murders.
Now I can only see John Nettles when I think of Barnaby, because he's so perfect in the part. As with all my books, they start with character, rather than having a plot, like Colonel Mustard and someone else and the librarian. I have the people first, and they tell me the story. People are always asking respectable elderly ladies about who write crime, how on earth how they come to sort of know these things or imagine these things. I don't know what they think our unconscious is like. It's a great mess like everybody else is.
I decided he should be taught a lesson.
Bit of a savage one, wasn't it?
I didn't think he'd die.
Colin, what do you expect a man to do if you drag an open razor across his throat?
I started off thinking I'll do the classic village murder. Quite honestly, I imagine nearly everything. But I feel if I've simply researched something and then I go and write it down in a book, I feel that's kind of cheating. And I know that's a slightly bizarre attitude, but I feel it's the importance of the imagination for a writer that matters rather than how capable they are at looking up things.
Even though there are more than 130 episodes of Midsomer Murders, it started off with a series of 7 books.
I suppose 7 is like 3. You know, it's a sort of mystical number attached to all sorts of things. And I just thought 7 sounded right.
But when she was creating the character of DCI Barnaby, she made him a lovable family man, which, as she says, was a break from the norm.
Crime fiction is so full of policemen overloaded with angst who are either drunk or sort of mad about strange things or desperately disappointed in love or don't get on with their children. So I thought I will have a middle-of-the-road, decent, honest copper, happily married with a daughter that he loves, he's proud of. He's a burly man. He's middle-aged, you know, in his kind of maybe late 40s or 50. He's known for his eyebrows, which are very, very bushy and black and coarse like horsehair, and overhang, you know, very, very strong indeed. He's rather ruddy in countenance. He suffers from indigestion, poor man, because of his wife's cooking.
That's right, Troy.
Dinner's ready, Tom.
Yes, Troy, thank you. That's exactly what I want to know. Thank you.
What's this then?
It's Delia Smith. Stewed neck of lamb with mushroom dumplings. You can't go wrong with Delia Smith.
That's what I'd always thought.
Now, although her novels were hugely popular with readers, it was through a chance encounter at a classical music concert between a friend and a former BBC script editor that brought the books to the screen.
And in the interval, they met Betty Willingale, a script editor and a producer from Claudius from way back. Brilliant. She's brilliant. And my friend said, have you read Caroline Graham's books? Would they make good television? And Betty had a look at them, thought they would. Once the contract was signed, I was never just pushed aside as if I wasn't of any worth, you know. Everyone took me into all the details of what was going on. Betty always ring me up and tell me what was happening.
Seeing her books made into a television series brought Caroline great pride, particularly being on set for the very first episode.
I went on location for Badger's Drift, and it was really strange because I was standing there and it was in a big stately home with lawns and gardens, great marquees for the wedding, and there were lights everywhere and actors and extras. And I thought, just because I sat down one day with a pen and a pad of paper and thought maybe I'll write a crime novel.
And she certainly did, didn't she? That was the author behind the Detective Barnaby series, which Midsomer Murders is based on, Caroline Graham. Now it's time for our international superfan face-off, where 2 fans from around the world go head-to-head on all things Midsomer Murders. To host, we have Ashley Storrie.
It's time for the Midsomer Murders superfan head-to-head quiz. We are joined by Jill and Esme. Now, we don't have buzzers on this show. We don't have the budget for it. Jill, what's your buzzer noise? Bzz. Excellent, Jill. Esme, what's your buzzer noise?
I'm just going to clap. Make a loud clap.
Esme's going to go for the loud clap. Now, we have 10 questions, all about the episode Death of a Hollow Man. It's the episode where they're at the Amdram again, and you know something bad's going to happen whenever a Barnaby walks into a theatre. That's a recipe for disaster. I've said it once and I'll say it again. I do not know how Cully got an acting job after this, given that every play she's been in, somebody died. But there we go. Okay, are you ready, ladies? Esme, are you ready?
I think so.
She's ready. She's playing it coy. She's pretending. She's an absolute demon when it comes to quizzes. Jill, are you ready?
Born ready.
Okay, here we go. Question number 1. Death of a Hollow Man is based on the book of the same name by Caroline Graham. Of the 7 Chief Inspector Barnaby series books, which order was Death of a Hollow Man released? Which number in the 7 books is Death of a Hollow Man?
And I'm a librarian.
Oh, Jill! Jill!
I hang my head in shame.
Oh, okay, Esme?
4.
Incorrect. Jill, you've got a number.
3.
No, incorrect. You had a 1 in 6 chance of getting it. You were wrong. It's number 2.
Oh.
No points.
I knew it was nearer the beginning, but that was about it.
Jill, you're as much a librarian as Cully in our book van.
This is it.
Question number 2. What is the name of the Amateur Dramatic Society in the episode?
Oh, brain freeze.
It's so obvious.
Yes. Oh, no.
You're not even going to take a dive. Take a guess. What would the Amateur Dramatic Society be called?
The Midsomer Dramatic Society.
So close, but no. Jill.
Oh, Causton Amateur.
I'm going to give it to Jill. It was the Causton Amateur Dramatic Society. Jill's taking the point. Question number 3. The body of Agnes Grey is found in a lake, but in which village does it take place? Yes, Esme.
Fern Bassett.
She's nailed it. Esme gets the point. It's Fern Bassett. Well done. Which also weirdly sounds like a Hollywood movie star from like the 70s. Like starring Fern Bassett. She sounds like a Bond girl who never quite took off. Okay. Question 4. Which well-known play does a cast member quote from in the dressing room before they take to the stage? Yes, Esme.
Macbeth.
It is Macbeth. She shouldn't have even been mentioning Macbeth in a theatre. It's very bad luck. But she
needs to whistle.
Oh, and then run about. Question number 5. How many deaths are there in this episode? Yes, Esme.
2.
Yes, Esme. Oh, Esme's on fire.
She is.
Esme is... Okay, watch yourself, Jill. She's rampaging through this. Question number 6. What is the name of the instrument used in the theme tune? Yes, Jill.
Theremin.
Yes, it is, Jill. Well done. Also used in Doctor Who.
It is.
Question number 7. Death of a Hollow Man was first aired in the UK in what year? Yes, Esme.
1998.
Oh, Esme, you're right. Oh, right. We're currently standing at Esme 4, Jill 2, Ashley 1 point for the question neither of you answered. Question number 8. What animal is at the top of the invoice Barnaby uncovers of Agnes Grey? Yes, Jill.
I'll just go for badger.
You'd think, but no.
No.
Oh, don't know. A cat.
Incorrect. It was a donkey.
Oh.
Okay. I'm going to say this name wrong. Question 9. The weapon used to kill Esselin is what?
Barber's razor.
It was a razor. And for a bonus point, is that name Esselin?
Very Midsomer.
Apologies to all the Esselins in the world.
All 6 of them.
It does sound like something my nana would put in a bath to ease her joints. Final question. Number 10. What colour is Kitty's car which gets keyed?
Red.
Esme. Red is correct. Well done, Esme. I think she takes this one. The final score in this head-to-head Midsomer Murders superfan quiz is Esme 5, Jill 2. You fought valiantly, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me and chatting about Midsomer Murders. You are both geniuses.
It was a lot of fun.
Oh, I'm glad you had fun, Esme. And thank you, Jill. You're a valiant... Do you know what you try, Jill?
I do.
You're a librarian who doesn't know where a book goes, but I love that about you.
Yeah, but she's never going to forget now. I'm never going to forget.
No. Never.
So as we've come to the end of this episode of Midsomer Murders Mayhem Season 1, Episode 3, Death of a Hollow Man, I think it's time, Bill, that it was all wrapped up.
Well, Nicki, I'm sad to wrap it up, but that just means we're closer to the next one. So, Barnaby uncovers that Harold Winstanley and Agnes Grey were engaged in the illicit trade of valuable European art pieces. In a disturbing twist, Winstanley, fearing Agnes was on the verge of revealing their criminal activities, resorted to brutally assaulting her, resulting in her death. Armed with his late cousin's incriminating confession, Estlin seizes an opportunity to leverage the information as blackmail, forcing Winstanley to relinquish control of their upcoming theater venture. It becomes evident that it was Winstanley who manipulated the prop raisers to eliminate Estlin and keep his secrets hidden.
Nicely put. And here's Barnaby to explain the death of Estlin and what happened to that razor.
Listen, and I'll tell you exactly why and how he swapped them round. We know that Harold went backstage twice during the evening, just before the show began and at the end of the interval. So he must have made the first switch moments before curtain up, swapping the original razor with his substitute one. This way, a casual glance at the props tray would reveal nothing wrong.
Excuse me, thank you.
He must have known it was going to be a fiddly job. The interval gave him the perfect opportunity and ample time to remove the tape from the actual razor. And then, just minutes before Act 2, taking advantage of Deirdre's absence from the wings, he swapped them back. Poor old Estlin. Never had a chance.
So we bring Harold in?
Yes, we do.
As this week's episode draws to a close, we hope we have helped you to navigate your way around Death of a Hollow Man, where delusions of grandeur, thespians, deceit, and stolen art are all tied up by DCI Barnaby and his trusted sidekick, DS Gavin Troy. Next time, Ashley and I are sneaking a peek at the Dark Rider episode, in which the appearance of a headless horseman at Quitewell Hall foreshadows a number of deaths among an aristocratic family. In the midst of a Civil War reenactment, the family relive their own historic battles with their hostile neighbours. But what is the truth about the de Catvilles and the ghostly rider? We're going to be hearing from DCI John Barnaby, aka Neil Dudgeon, who will be talking about his sidekicks on the show.
One time when a director had to send us both off the set because we came back from lunch and spoke to each other for about 15 seconds and then were both crying with laughter for so long the director had to send us into the car park, which only made it worse. We're like two naughty boys being sent out of the classroom.
We'll also be hearing from our in-house TV critic Scott Bryan about the best bits of the episode.
It features one family being driven mad because of how loud the Civil War reenactments that their neighbours have been doing. Full-blown reenactments of huge wars with rockets and blasters and all of that stuff. And of course, the use of a headless horseman at the start of the episode, just a joy. Utter loopy.
And of course, Ashley will round things off with the superfan quiz. Midsomer Murders Mayhem is presented by me, Nicki Chapman. A massive thank you to Bill Young and Ashley Storrie and to our guest, Caroline Graham. This has been an All 3 Media international production with special thanks to associate producers Rachel Glaister and Gary Wall. This series was created by Story Hunter. The executive producer was Kirsty Hunter, produced by Shannon Delwish. The production team was Pam Muir, Ellie Abraham and Reham Musa.